Hi, I'm August Keller, and I watched 138 films from the year 2024. And I think it's time that I rank all of them. So, my bottom 25. So, these are the movies that I liked the least this year. So, Ghostbusters, it's very overstuffed, and we're going to see a lot throughout this list, is that's a big pet peeve of mine. When a movie is overstuffed with either too many characters or too many ideas, I find it to not develop any idea well, and then I end up feeling like there's a bunch of nothing. And I also feel tired because I'm trying to keep up with all of these things. And so Ghostbusters is a pretty good example of that. I mean, if you look at the poster, there's so many characters on the poster, and that just gives you an idea of how overstuffed this movie is. But let's get to number 22 here, which I know a lot of people are probably surprised to see ranked this quote unquote high. Madam Web. I think for a lot of people, this is, the number one worst movie of the year. And I know it's the internet's punching bag, but one redeemable thing about it I really liked was some of the editing. Throughout the movie, there's a lot of these like trippy visions, and I found that a good application of the medium of editing in a way that actually served the material. I do think that is enough to like boost it up to 22nd on this list. Here's another one that I think people are going to have opinions about, and that's my number 20th pick, and that's Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I just found it very overstuffed. It's very erratic. Like Shadow has got this like sad, dark backstory, which I know a lot of people are latching on to as why this movie is legitimately good, but I found it very underdeveloped, cramped by these other things. There's a sad scene with Shadow and then right into Jim Carrey being a goofball. I feel like that makes the sad scene ring a little hollow, a little insincere even, and that is really frustrating to me because I find it to be manipulative almost. I want to move into the next tier, which is, and I don't think there's much about them that really worked for me at all. Red One, I think a lot of people know that movie is not art. I'm so tired of The Rock. I think he's, just producing commercialized products, trying to make a buck. And that's all I ever see from him. And I think this movie is a great example of that. The Garfield movie, it's another IP movie just trying to cash in, and I don't think it does a whole lot. I will say that there was like a heartfelt moment or two with his dad that kind of surprised me after I had been turned off the whole movie, but I didn't feel like that was like a real true quality of the film. It's just kind of a fleeting scene. The Beekeeper, I found it really repetitive. I didn't really feel emotionally invested in, and after an hour of action scenes, I am tired. Venom at number 11, I don't know. I don't even know what that movie was trying to do. It's just kind of doing stuff until the final climax where it tries to do an emotional thing, but I don't care. Night Swim was really boring. Borderlands is a punching bag for a lot of people. It's bad. Craven the Hunter is incredibly boring. Number 5 is Lift. It's a Netflix piece of junk from Kevin Hart, who's also a big sellout in my opinion. Then there's Underdogs, which is like this raunchy comedy with Snoop Dogg. It's so generic. When your whole movie is just trying to say outlandish stuff the whole way through, it becomes desensitizing. The movie is just a one-trick pony that isn't even that clever, and the filmmaking is really, really cheap and bland. Number 3 is Rebel Moon Part 2. This might be the most bored I ever was watching a movie. It was just this big, bloated action sequence. These characters I still don't care about at all. It just was very tiresome and kind of a headache. Godzilla versus X Kong, The New Empire. It's another popular movie that I know people are going to be upset with me for not liking. I know people are going to say the little Kong and the big Kong creating a bond is some kind of emotional core to the movie. I didn't buy it. There's all this junk around it, like they cut to Godzilla going and fighting somebody for a while. Okay. There's these human characters that are so bland, so disengaged. They're just there to spout exposition. They're useless. I never cared, and I found the movie tiresome. But number 1 is Terrifier 3, which again I know has a very passionate fan base, and I'm sorry if you like this movie, and I hope I'm not offending you, but I found this movie pretty mean-spirited. I honestly was pretty miserable watching this movie. I'm sorry to say it. I didn't enjoy it. And I know other people might not read it as mean, and I understand that. And I understand that people might read it as mean, but have it be an outlet for them in a healthy way. I'm not judging you if you like this movie, but out of all the movies I saw this year, this is the one I want to see the least. Again, I have no desire to ever see Terrifier 3 again. So yeah, that's my bottom 25. Let's move into my top 113. I know Unfrosted was another punching bag this year. I do think some of the jokes worked. There's a really interesting cast. Salem's Lot felt like a miniseries cut down into a movie. It was very disjointed, very rushed, but I like some of the aesthetics. The instigators, I don't know, Matt Damon and Casey Affleck have chemistry. So Mufasa, I'm sure some people might be surprised that I ranked Mufasa higher than Sonic the Hedgehog, for example. But I think it at least had a fairly focused story. They underdeveloped his relationship with his parents, of course, and I really do not like the designs of the lions, but at least the story is generally cohesive. Argyle, I know, is another punching bag. It's a bloated mess too, but it has some style. The action sequences are kind of bizarre and ugly and don't work, but I admire the creativity at least. Transformers 1, that's one that I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback for as well. A lot like with Sonic, I think people latch on to the fact that it has like some drama, but again, I feel like the drama is really underdeveloped and kind of happens suddenly and isn't earned, and is surrounded by a lot of goofy silliness, which makes the tone not match. And a lot of that goofy silliness does not work for me. Damsel had some social commentary. I like that it was lightly feminist. Same with the idea of calling out how people can really attack women on the internet. Good Grief has some decent themes about grief and moving on. I don't think it was the most insightful. I think it really wanted to be more insightful than it was, but I appreciate that it was trying. Y2K at 95. Yeah, it's a one joke movie and all the drama feels very generic, but I do like the Y2K stuff. And of course, the big name on this tier was the name that I might get the most hate for, is having Deadpool and Wolverine at number 91. This movie, I really feel like, had nothing going for it other than fan service. And look, the filmmaking, I just think nothing of. I think the cinematography is actually kind of bland. And on top of all that, I think the story is very jumbled. I know that, again, they did this drama thing where Wolverine has a sad past, but it's just told in an exposition dump, and he arcs right there. So I don't feel like that's earned. It doesn't feel satisfying. I think Ryan Reynolds, his snarky humor, I don't think very much of. I can't rank it higher than this. Then there's Bad Boys Ride or Die. It's bloated, but some of the action sequences are really well constructed. They have some cool cinematography. Beetlejuice is convoluted and bloated. It has a lot of needless side plots, which is a big pet peeve of mine, but the aesthetics are really nice. I really like the cinematography and the production design. The Fall Guy has decent action. I think I ended up ranking this movie higher than I thought I would. Because I like Ryan Gosling so much, but also I like that they actually used actual stunts. We got A Complete Unknown, which is going to get nominated for an Oscar this year. I don't really understand why. The theme is about how the main character is an enigma and it's hard to understand a man like Bob Dylan, but that's hard to watch. It's hard to connect with that. And the filmmaking is okay. I found it pretty dull. Timmy Chalamet does a good job. I don't know. I don't think it's that great a movie. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The second act is kind of dull. Special effects are really great, though. It Ends With Us has an interesting theme about domestic abuse, which I think is always important. It's hard for me to sync a movie too much when it's trying to talk about real topics. Here we go again, where I'm going to surprise a lot of people and maybe make some people upset, but I have Joker Folie à Deux at number 67. Well, for one, I think the writing is really trying to say something interesting. I have to give them credit for really trying to deconstruct what Joker is. The movie really gets kind of very meta, actually. The whole theme is about how people care about Joker more than Arthur Fleck. This movie is really saying Joker is not a hero. Joaquin Phoenix, of course, is a great actor. I thought the musical numbers were interesting. It's supposed to be sour because it's reflecting the tone. They feel broken, so they're singing in a broken way. I do have to admit that the movie it's a slog to sit through, but I admire the bold swing. And on that note, number 66 is Megalopolis. It's a mess. It's a mess for sure. But I can't get too mad at it. It's doing so much. It's trying so hard. It's applying so much filmmaking craft. Even when the writing is flawed and it's kind of like, what is this story even trying to say? Even if it didn't say it well, I appreciate that it was trying. Blitz, it's got a lot of good filmmaking. It's trying to say something important, but it's also kind of dull. Yeah, it underdevelops the main character, which I think is its biggest flaw. Mean Girls, the musical people didn't like. I like Mean Girls a lot. I thought this one was different enough, and I liked the songs, and a lot of the jokes still made me laugh, and the new jokes made me laugh too. So Drive Away Dolls is definitely not the best Coen Brothers movie. In fact, it's probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen, but it's still got some fun stuff going on and still got a little bit of that Coen Brothers magic. Monkey Man, cool action, his cinematography, it's got style to it. I just kind of thought it was dull in the middle. Heretic had a great first act, a great performance from Hugh Grant, but I think after we reveal what's actually going on, we get into the second and third act, I kind of stopped caring so much. Saturday Night, I was trying to do the Uncut Gems kind of style of controlled chaos. I don't think it really pulls it off. I don't know. It was okay. Small things like these. Cillian Murphy's great. It's a very slight movie. Speak No Evil is really driven by James McAvoy's performance. He's excellent in it, and it's talking about politeness, which is an interesting theme, and how we're overly polite to our own detriment sometimes. Here is an interesting one I want to talk about. I found it really ambitious. It's very schmaltzy, but it does actually get a little sad at times. And having the whole movie from one camera angle, that's something. And as someone who really is advocating for filmmaking and the technical aspects of filmmaking, this is a bold movie. Maxine, I think a lot of people were let down. Its story is kind of boring, even. It's about a slasher, but we don't really get to know Maxine much better. We never really start caring about who the slasher is. Once we find out, it kind of feels underwhelming. But the filmmaking is really cool. I really like the aesthetics. It looks very giallo sometimes. Boy Kills World, it's a very maximalist movie. It's very in your face with the editing and the cinematography. Conclave, great acting, great writing, very politicking, handsomely made. The cinematography is pretty. The Wild Robot was a tearjerker. I don't think the story is actually that special. It does what it needs to do to make you cry, which is, something. And I really like the animation. Animated movies are moving away from photorealism, kind of becoming more artistic. A Real Pain, of course, Kieran Culkin did a great job. The writing is really good. It's about something important. But other than that, the filmmaking doesn't really stand out to me. Late Night with the Devil has a very high concept, and it really sticks to the filmmaking really is all in on that, which is neat. Night Bitch, His Three Daughters, The Outrun, all three of them have very good acting. All three of them have some important things to say. The Outrun, I think, is the best of the three because of the editing. Cinematography and editing, I think, are two aspects of filmmaking that I'm kind of a sucker for. Wicked. I like Wicked a lot. I thought it was quite a spectacle. I thought Ariana Grande was excellent. I love the music. What Is This Feeling is the toe tapper, and the production design is great. Blink Twice is very flashy, and it's saying a lot of stuff about a lot of social commentary about the 1%. Long Legs is number 20. It's an atmospheric, kind of scary movie. I got a lot of David Fincher vibes. I think the third act kind of is a letdown, but it's a very, very good movie. A great movie. Strange Darling. This is how thrillers should be made. The editing really, really enhances it. The way it's told out of order. Very Pulp Fiction in that way. Inside Out 2. I think it captures going through puberty well, and I think it's very thoughtful. The way it depicts anxiety, I think I found it very enlightening. And of course, all the CGI and the production design is great because Pixar always does that stuff right. Hundreds of Beavers is maybe the surprise of the year. This movie is just basically Looney Tunes. But what I like about it is that it's very low budget, and it really uses that to its advantage. The low budget becomes part of the aesthetic. Instead of having CGI beavers, it's got guys walking around in beaver outfits, and that's fun and really leans into the Looney Tunes-ness of it. Dee Dee is a coming-of-age movie that I found to be a tearjerker. Very thoughtful, very personal, very genuine, and the filmmaking is good too, and the acting is great. So I know a lot of people don't like Emilia Perez. I thought it was good. I like that it's representing a lot of different kind of communities. I know some people are upset saying it's painting Mexico in a bad light, but I think it's just advocating for a better Mexico. Look, I'm not from Mexico. I don't know anything about what it's like there. But as an outsider looking in, I just saw it as a movie that cared about Mexico. I never was looking down on it. And also I thought the musical aspects were very creative and interesting. And I like the LGBT aspect of it too. I know some people are offended by that as well. Again, I'm not part of that community, but I found it sympathetic towards it, and I think representing underrepresented communities is a good first step. Problemista is a really weird, quirky movie. It's very much my style, where it's like maximalist, just bizarre, and it's also talking about the immigrant perspective. So it's got a lot of substance too, and it's really funny. I laughed at it a lot. I saw the TV Glow is very strange, and honestly, when I left the theater, wasn't really sure what I just saw, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. But I found out that it's about someone coming out as trans, or someone dealing with becoming trans, and then it all clicked into place, and it became very sad and very personal and very horrifying even. And on top of that, the filmmaking is just so great. The cinematography, the editing, the music, the production design. I just thought it was a very, very well made movie. So here we have Flow. I love that there's no dialogue. It feels almost like spiritual. I love the way the CGI looks. I love the sound that really carries the movie. And it's also done in these really long, unbroken takes. It does cut from time to time, but it's really the cinematography and the editing work together to be very immersive. Anora, number 8, I think. I'm not sure if that's the front runner for the Oscar this year or not, but I really like Sean Baker. He really likes to show these kinds of people that society looks down on, and he humanizes them and makes us sympathize with them, and I think that's really important. And of course, there's a really powerhouse performance at the center of the movie with Mikey Madison, and the movie's really funny. So it's saying a lot of important stuff. It's saying it really cleverly, and the filmmaking. While I don't think the filmmaking is necessarily as great as other movies around this range, I do think the filmmaking is very good. Number 7 is Challengers. That movie's just so fun and so thrilling, very Machiavellian. I like the way it uses romance as like something endearing, but also something kind of scary. And I like the ending. The ending's kind of abstract, but it's kind of like this like aha moment that's like was right under your nose the whole time. And yeah, the editing's really cool. The music, I love Trent Reznor, and the cinematography gets really wild at the end. And of course, the acting is great. I think Zendaya really brought it. She's really good at playing a mean, scary lady in this movie. Love Lies Bleeding is number 6. This movie is so cool. I love it so much. It's just doing a lot of things really well. It's personal. It's very psychological and sexual, and in its thrillers. It's also a lot of like self-discovery. At the center of it, I think it's very heartfelt too, even though it's like dark. At number 5, I have Nosferatu. I can see why it might be considered boring to some people. The plot is pretty thin, and it gets kind of repetitive in the middle. But other than that, I think the movie is perfect. I think it has really excellent themes. I think the drama within the main character lady, she's very, very overwhelmed, and her acting is excellent. The way she's like convulsing I was blown away. And then of course the aesthetic, like the cinematography and the sound design, the production design, it all really comes together to create this like atmosphere that I think is hard to pull off. I think people might take atmosphere for granted, and it's not like you can point to one specific thing, but when the atmosphere comes together so well like that, that's just like such great filmmaking. Dark and brooding and meditative, gothic in every way. At number 4, I have Furiosa, Mad Max Saga. It feels very epic. It feels like I got more than 2.5 hours worth of movie from the 2.5 hours. The action is excellent. I mean, everything that you can say about Mad Max Fury Road, you can apply to Furiosa, just maybe not. It's not as airtight as Fury Road, but Furiosa is close to Fury Road in every way. Fury Road is like one of the best movies ever, so of course Furiosa is excellent. It being an epic versus a streamlined, basically prolonged action sequence like Fury Road makes it harder for people to get into Furiosa, but I think Furiosa makes up for that with having more drama and really some more character development. If someone told me they liked Furiosa more than Fury Road, I wouldn't think that's an outlandish thing to say. So at number 3, I have The Brutalist. Wow. I mean, The Brutalist is pretty much everything filmmaking can be. This is cinema. Martin Scorsese would approve of The Brutalist. It's this big, sprawling epic. It's about an immigrant, about someone being displaced from World War II. But more than that, it's very much about just being human and feeling accepted. And it's about classism. It's got a lot of drama between the main character and his wife. And then on top of that, the filmmaking is just basically perfect in every way. It's a super long movie, which I know is intimidating for people, but I think that really serves the film. The production design with like the big grand scale, the music is incredible, and the cinematography is very, very thoughtful too. And of course, the acting brings it all together. So it's a perfect movie. At number 2, I have Dune Part 2, which actually I think is kind of a lot like The Brutalist in a lot of ways. It's like The Brutalist in space. It's like a sci-fi version of The Brutalist. It's this big epic about different kinds of people learning to coexist. I think sci-fi deserves a little more credit because it's creating a universe from scratch. And of course, there's more action in Dune 2, so that requires more filmmaking craft. And, I really like the downer ending, too. I think that really drives everything home. So Dune 2, I'm sure a lot of people's top movie of the year. For me, it's number 2 because number 1 is The Substance. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, the writing is great. It's very much a social commentary, but it uses a very high concept, this sci-fi horror premise. The premise is so intuitive. It's so perfect. On top of that, the filmmaking is amazing. The editing, the sound design, the cinematography, the production design, and the effects. Oh my gosh, the makeup effects are just so breathtaking. The movie's so in your face, so maximalist. Not only is The Substance my favorite movie of the year, but it's one of my favorite movies, period, because it just combines filmmaking and entertainment and social commentary and brings it all together into this perfect ball of energy. Yeah, I just don't think you can get more from a movie than what The Substance gives you. So yeah. That's all I have to say about all that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram linked in the description. I'd love support there or here. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching. Let me know what your favorite movies are or if you really disagree with anything in my rankings. But please try to stay polite. I would really appreciate that. Okay, thanks. Bye.